the passage. Let's quickly read it. Uh, it's a passage about a book. The book is about a subject. And what is that subject? Free determination, self determination, freely determined will, and things like that. So let's quickly summarize the passage before we attempt the questions. While the power of physical sciences to explain the operations of the world mechanistically is an irresistible force, the human feeling of being free remains an immovable object. It seems that only one can prevail, but neither looks as if it's about to yield. What does it mean? Great to try to explain the world in terms of mechanical terms, physical sciences in mechanical form. But at the same time, the human mind, the human feeling that we are free, we will not be governed by anything physical, that is also high. So, nobody is yielding. Physical, mechanical sciences versus your mental will, and so nobody is willing to yield. More than a few scientists have blithely sauntered across this metaphysical minefield as though it was safe terrain. So philosophers have and scientists have moved from one to the other almost like it's very safe to do this. They claim that science has proved that free will is an illusion and that's all there is to it. So scientists say we've studied both physical sciences and free will. Free will is an illusion, it's not a reality. Forget talking about free will. Psychologist Kenan M. Sheldon is a different kind of trespasser on the philosopher's turf, and he argues that free will is real after all. So you have a psychologist, he's not a scientist, but he says, no, 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 free will exists, it's real. Yet, his metaphysical claim, which occupies the early chapters of a book called Freely Determined, is treated perfunctorily and is in any case irrelevant to the rest of what this fascinating book has to say. He says free will is real, but this topic on how it is real is being treated very perfunctorily, means very casually in his book. But his book, the author says, the author of the passage says, is a fascinating work. What is the book about? Mr. Sheldon's interest in free will is rooted in his work in self determination theory. That's what the passage is about. Sheldon wrote a book on self determination theory where he mentions this subject, free will. Self determination theory he calls the world's most comprehensive and best supported theory of human motivation. A core tenet of SDT is that people need to experience themselves as the causal source and origin of their own behavior rather than feeling controlled and determined by external forces. So, what is the self determination theory? He says it's the most best supported theory of human motivation. And what is the theory all about? That human beings have to realize, this realization has to come, that you are the source and origin of everything that happens to you. Control everything, not external. You are the source of your own behavior. You control your behavior. You're not controlled by something external. When people feel autonomous, they are more content and successful. If you're content, you're satisfied because you think I'm doing it myself, I am free, I'm doing it on my own, you're more satisfied, content, and therefore you're more successful. When they feel they have no control, they become morally cynical. And after all, if we are not in control of what we do, how can we be blamed for wrongdoing? I'm not in control of what my actions. I'm not in control of my behavior. Therefore, I'm not in control of my bad behavior either, of my wrongdoing either. That will be their way of thinking. Most of Mr. Sheldon's 10 chapters constitute a compelling and clear introduction to what STD teaches us about nurturing a sense of autonomy. His book is about the self determination theory, and self determination theory will tell you about how to nurture this feeling of autonomy. Autonomy is freedom, right? You, you are doing things of your own will. You're not being controlled. You're not under any external control. The theory gives us a rich and powerful understanding of motivation, how to harness it, and how to avoid undermining it. Most notably, the theory points to the importance of intrinsic motivation. It tells you that motivation has to come from inside, the desire to do something for its own reward, not for any instrumental benefit. So, intrinsic motivation is when you do something for its own sake, not because somebody's paying you, not for any kind of benefit, instrumental, monetary, whatever. There are always some things that we just have to do, like washing dishes, filling out a tax form, but our lives tend to get better if, seeing ourselves as autonomous, we shape our actions around what appears to us to have intrinsic values. There are certain mundane chores that you do every day, but you will be really happy when you do something. If you think of yourself as autonomous, you will do those actions which will have intrinsic value. The positive correlation between autonomous work motivation and subjective well being is much stronger than the positive correlation between income and subjective well being. Very interesting theory. He says there's a positive correlation between autonomous work motivation and your feeling of well being, more than income and well being. Okay, so feel good about what you're doing. I'm free in my work, I'm autonomous in what I'm doing, would lead to your well being much more, has a greater correlation than I'm getting paid a lot, therefore. So basically, instrumental benefits are not as important to your subjective well being as autonomy or the feeling of autonomy, which is what he had said earlier. Based on the passage, which of the following can be best inferred? So, based on the information in the passage, which of the following is true without any doubt? SDT is the world's most comprehensive and best supported theory of human motivation. That has been stated. He claims that it is the most comprehensive and best supported theory of human motivation. That is the view of Sheldon. That does not make it a fact, right? And it's Sheldon's view. If it's a Mr. Sheldon feels it's a fact, it's already been given in the passage. But here the mistake is that it's Sheldon's view, it's not the author's view, right? So author doesn't say that's true, and it's not an inference. Science has proved that free will is an illusion. Scientists say that free will is an illusion. Does not mean that science has proved that free will is an illusion. Some scientists who went from who tried to see, they say free will is an illusion. Sheldon has shown in his book that human free will is real. He agrees, but he hasn't shown in his book. They say Sheldon is one of those who believes that human free will is real, but his book treats this subject perfunctorily, very casually. His main theory is SDT. Okay, so C also cannot be inferred. There is a tussle between natural sciences and the notion of free will. Yes, he says that there's a tussle. The very first paragraph, he says mechanics, physical sciences say that that is the most important thing. But the people who have free will, the people who believe in free will, believe that that is not subjected to mechanistic theories. So there's a tussle going on between the two. So D can be inferred. Scientists should stay away from sauntering. Did he say this? He said scientists have been going from philosophy to science just to show free will is not there. But the author does not say should or shouldn't do it. He says psychologist has also gone into the turf in a different way, right? So the correct answer is D.